everybody, welcome to another episode of Ocean State Aquatics TV, and today we are talking saltwater, specifically Valenciana polaris, aka the orange spotted watchman goby or the diamond goby. So let's get into it. So the diamond goby has become a very popular fish throughout the saltwater aquarium trade because of their ability to sift sand. They are an amazing fish to have if you have white sand and you want to keep it crystal clear and white, they sure will do that. But there's a few things that come with keeping a diamond goby. First of all, we'll talk about how big they get. So diamond gobies get about 6 inches, which is quite a big fish. So we want to make sure that we're keeping them in a 50-gallon tank or larger. We also want to make sure that we're actually keeping them in an established tank. A lot of people will get your diatom ugly stage in the beginning of an aquarium and want to immediately get a diamond goby, but I would highly advise against this because diamond gobies actually sift sand for a purpose. They sift sand to look for microfauna in the actual sand bed. And in a very new aquarium, there's really very little microfauna in the tank. So you end up having a fish that will eventually not be getting enough food in his diet because he will eat frozen food, but they are a fish that needs to eat all day, eating little microfauna like little copepods, other little things that are in the sand bed that they may not get in a relatively new tank. So usually I typically recommend waiting at least 6 months before you think about getting into a diamond goby. One other tip with diamond gobies is to make sure you have a lid on your aquarium or a canopy of some kind or something that doesn't allow the fish to jump. Diamond gobies are very prone to jumping. Any type of goby species is pretty prone. This is typically because they are a prey fish, so they're very nervous all the time. So when a fish startles them, or if you turn the light on in the room too fast or something, it can startle the fish and they may not be prepared for that. And the first thing they do is try to escape. And the first thing they do is shoot straight up, and sometimes that usually means up onto the floor if you don't have a lid on the tank. I highly suggest keeping them in an aquarium with a lid so that that does not happen. Diamond gobies usually are a very friendly fish, and they can typically go with pretty much anything else. Diamond gobies, I will say, don't like to actually be together unless you add them at the exact same time, and it's a large enough aquarium. They typically will become pretty territorial throughout the tank. So if you have a large, like 6-foot tank, they usually will kind of have their own territory and mind their own business. But in a smaller aquarium, say something like the 65 here, it doesn't have a ton of floor space, you may get some aggression. I do have 2 in this aquarium and they actually do really well together because I added them at the same time and they're still small. But once they get full grown, about 6 inches, you may get some territory issues. So I highly suggest just 1. And like I said, they do eat the microfauna in the sand bed, and 2 may cause some competition for food. So I highly suggest just 1 unless you have a large aquarium. So it's 6 months and you've decided that you want a diamond goby in the tank to keep that sand nice and white. So you come in, you get a diamond goby and you bring it home, and all of a sudden the tank is really cloudy the next day and you just do not understand why. This is very common, and it's typically because the diamond goby is sifting up all that sand that you may not have touched since you set up the tank. So now it's going to be very cloudy. So I always tell people, expect a cloudy tank for the next week or so once you get a diamond goby, and it's nothing to be concerned about. It's just stirring up all that little microparticles in the aquarium that was in the sand bed. I suggest just running some filter socks or some microfiber in there to pull out all those particles, and that will definitely help. Diamond gobies are not picky eaters. They typically will eat any type of frozen food that you offer, and usually you can get them onto a pellet food as well if you do feed that. Right now are eating mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, mega marine, rods food, and they are not picky. They start eating usually a day or 2 after they've been here, and they'll probably do the same once they get into your aquarium as well. When looking for a goby to sift your sand, I highly suggest the diamond goby over many of the other species. There's other species that will sift sand, like goldhead sleeper gobies, which are an absolutely beautiful goby, but they're a little bit more active with their sand sifting, so they'll actually take a mouthful of sand, swim up over your rockwork, and let it all fall out as they swim over your corals, and you can end up having sand everywhere, all over your rocks and stuff. And diamond gobies usually don't do that. They're usually really good about it. They usually stay close to the bottom when they're sifting, and they don't really like to spread the sand everywhere. But they will dig, so just keep that in mind. When you're setting up an aquarium, I always suggest putting your rockwork on the bottom of the tank and then pouring your sand in prior to putting any fish in. And it's actually for fish like this. Once they start digging and they're pulling sand out from under your rocks, if you don't have them directly on the glass, those rocks can tumble or they can fall and break the glass. If you do decide to get a diamond goby, make sure those rocks are stable and they are on the bottom, because they are going to want to dig a little tunnel under your rocks, and you don't want a disaster waiting to happen. So if you guys have an established tank and you're looking for a fish that's going to keep that sand bed nice and white, come on in and grab yourself a diamond goby either here at our Wakefield location or over at our Coventry location as well. And we hope to see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Ocean State Aquatics TV with me, Salty Alley, and you know what to do today. Keep it salty, baby.